Let's just get this part out of the way. Araragi in pigtails and girls' pajamas. Oh, I'm not gonna lie, I was waiting all season for this moment. Whether or not I even knew about it is relevant because it was what I needed, even when I didn't know it was what I wanted. It's so much cuter than Cat Koyomin or Prince Koyomin. Okay, I'm ready to move on now. This was the final episode of the season, and wow, I didn't expect so much setup for future episodes. But I'm really glad they foreshadowed a lot to come at the end. But that's getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. Let's go back to the beginning of the episode, where Nisio Isin sets up some clues right before the big reveal of who the story's primary culprit is. I mentioned before that I have some thoughts about him as a mystery writer that I wanted to discuss. I know that not every mystery fan is going to necessarily enjoy his style, but I agree that clever and entertaining are more important to me than simply the believability behind the logic of the puzzles and hints he leaves behind. I actually thought this mystery had a clever way of dealing with any clumsiness he may have displayed in that regard. Having the culprit be a high school girl who leaves behind deliberately staged clues accounts for the silly puzzles that Nisio Isi no doubt entertained himself with coming up with. But when it comes to the clues that will guide his reader to the answer, he seems to stick to his strengths: wordplay and absurd comedy. Let's start with Kambaru, who very cleverly subverted expectations by giving us a self introduction based on a completely different understanding of the words position and play than her teammates. While the other seniors in the club set up the pattern of basketball team position and favorite basketball related play, she once again reminded everyone of her position beneath Araragi and informed us of her favorite erotic play. After laughing along with the joke, I realized that she was also setting us up for the spot the difference hint that allowed Araragi to figure out the answer to this volume's main mystery. He himself was another example of the one who stood out in such a game, being the only boy dressed in girls' pajamas at this pajama party. Realizing that Harimaze Kie was the only member not in the basketball club's friend group that was attacked by the mysterious vampire, he was able to figure out the rest and identify our culprit, the very girl we met at the start of the story. Now that I can finally talk about her, let's explore how this story is ultimately about Araragi's and Shinobu's relationship, how it expands on the entire series being an analogy for adolescence and growth, and how it sets up the future of the series. Kie arrives on the scene dressed in Deathtopia's clothes. She had to abandon her own in order to disguise one of the other victims as herself, but I think it also symbolizes how she usurped Deathtopia's identity for the purpose of messing with the investigation. And ultimately, it feels like a metaphor for how the young will come to inherit that which came before them. What she chooses to do with the powers, name, and reputation she took from Deathtopia, however, is obviously quote-unquote wrong, primarily because it is disrespectful and disingenuous. She says she was trying to respect Deathopia by burying her near a shrine so she could rest in peace, but she carelessly uses her name to harm others and her reputation. Is there a right way to behave as a descendant, then? I think it's implied that there is, or at least there was, a better one than Kie. When confronting Kie, Deathopia brings up Shinobu a lot. Though both were vampires that she turned who had asked for it, they couldn't be more different. Whereas Harimaze Kie wished to become a vampire for selfish gains, Princess Acerola did it out of her deep sense of compassion for others. At the time, there was nothing else she could do for the people who fell victim to the power of her blessing, or curse, and she wanted to confront them directly, to take responsibility in the only way available to her. Now, according to Deathopia, it seems she has forgotten that purpose because she accomplished it. Kie, on the other hand, became a victim to escape her current predicament. She did it to run away from her responsibilities. The text on the screen reminds us that she's accomplished nothing at all, despite all the havoc she's wreaked. Kie is then compared to another descendant of Deathtopia's, though further removed, Araragi. Deathopia makes a proposition to Kie. She can return to being a human by eating her, or she can kill her and become an even stronger vampire. This is very similar to the position Araragi and Shinobu had been in at the start of their journey. I thought it was quite a poetic way to show how far Araragi has come. I also thought that Topia was very clever for forcing her child to actually make a decision. Kie now has to take responsibility for what she's done, either by allowing the other girls to turn back or continuing to make more mistakes. Araragi has arrived at this point, and Kie again reinforces their connection by pointing out that he, like her, is no longer human. He tries to reason Kie into making the right decision to return everyone to the state they were originally in. They philosophize briefly about the agony of adolescence, which was a major theme for the original series, and once again we get to see Araragi's growth. This conversation also confirms my earlier understanding that the mummy-like state the girls probably represent the frozen state of their lives. Kie believes that's all adolescence is, but Araragi has been through this and knows that change and growth are inevitable. In fact, change may be the only constant. That's something he makes pretty clear by the end. One of the major changes he experienced was with Shinobu. I really think this story's center is their relationship and what it represents. As mentioned in previous episodes, Araragi asked Shinobu what humans were to her. He expected the answer might just be food. I posited that the answer would come with Deathtopia, and I think I was right. While discussing this very topic with Kie, Deathtopia rejects the idea that their relationship has to be seen only in terms of predator and prey, monster and victim. After all, she's met two humans who asked to become vampires. She describes it now as a business deal, though I think it would be better to say that she's hinting at the potential for partner or even companionship. In Acerola Bon Appetit, she struggles with this very issue of defining hers and Princess Acerola's relationship, since it was clearly developing beyond how she viewed the human princess originally as food. It feels like she's making peace with it here. In the car, Shinobu says that humans are monsters. That seems to put them on the same level as oddities, which is perhaps how she sees them now after having spent so much time with Araragi. That's the foundation for their coexistence now. In the epilogue of the story, Araragi recounts what happened to Shenjo Kahara, and it seems he is still involved in the basketball club's affairs, helping Kambaru fix the issues that led to these events. She remarks at the end that this is why he's still a child, and he himself admits that's probably true. I think this is fascinating to look at from multiple angles. First, this affirms that while Araragi may have grown out of adolescence, that doesn't mean that he's done growing. Though we may associate development with childhood more so than adulthood, it's important to remember that we're not fixed in our ways just because we're no longer children. Even Deathtopia has changed. Second, I think this also confirms my theory that Araragi still has regrets and a desire to stick around to help his hometown. He looks so happy when he checks his group chat with Kambaru. He may not have to depend so much on Ogi running interference now. In any case, they definitely hint that he will stay involved in the town's affairs, and with Gaian's comments on the establishment of the Rumor Squad, Taft is pretty much teasing us with the idea of further adaptations from the Monogatari Monster Season light novels. I, for one, cannot wait. That's it for me with this series of commentary videos. I hope you enjoyed this last one, even if it is pretty long.